Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and just a very quick little introduction before we get into the video. Today, we're going to be listening to a guy called Michael, who was actually the second place in the LVO tournament, playing his Asuryani army. Quite the shocker. He contacted me in the comments, I asked if he wanted to have an interview, he said yes, so we're listening to that. This is actually going to be a two-parter. This first part is all him chatting about LVO in general, and also a rundown of his 6 games, how he won them, how he plays his kill team, etc. In the second part, we're going to be getting a few more general thoughts, just about kill team in general, competitive, factions he thinks are the best factions, that kind of thing, how arena's panning out for him, etc., etc. However, the reason for this little introduction is because actually, unfortunately, the audio levels are a little bit off. You can hear Michael perfectly. He's coming through great. However, I was sounding super quiet. So I've done what I can with the audio levels, but they're a little bit off still. So what I've actually done when editing is I've edited this down so that there's not too much of me. You're mainly hearing Michael, which is great. Because honestly, he's a much better speaker than I am. So it's great. So anyway, we go into it now, and so you know, there's not going to be an outro. I'm just going to cut the video off roughly when it seems like we're moving from talking about LVO to talking about other stuff. Great. So I'll see you next Monday for something. It might be Michael's thing, or it might be one of my other interviews, as I've done a few now. I'm looking forward to getting them all up for you. Just a little bit more long form content, something a bit more podcast like. Okay, enjoy the video.
Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today I have with me Mike. He is the man, the myth, the legend, that went ahead and came second in this year's LVO, playing, rather shockingly, Asuryani, or, as we all know and love them, Eldar. So Mike, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody out there. Michael is my name. Purple Prose sometimes, depending on where I post, but I keep a little bit of a low profile. Anyway, hey, happy to be here after a second place finish, right? The winner is probably booked out for months.
Wow,
Got to show
yeah.
them
Second
business.
place is first in our hearts, though, because I think we all know Eldar. Oh, no, Tyranids. They're not, they're not a reputable race to play, are they? Let's be honest.
Well, there is that. There is that.
Okay, so for anyone that hasn't been to LVO, would you like to describe the experience in general? Like, was it good to go? Would you go again? Thoughts?
Oh yeah, I'll definitely go again. I do not have quite as much opportunity to jet set around the world as I would like. Um,
Sure.
I'm going to be sad to miss Adepticon, and I'm certainly going to miss Nova too, which will both probably be bigger kill team tournaments. But LVO is a nice big tournament, and it was close enough that I could get there and kind of in the right time of the year. LVO's, I mean, it's maybe $3,000, 4,000 people there, and it's a convention. It's not just a tournament, but its main event is a 40K Champions tournament. That's certainly what more people are there to do than anything else. They got another 50 games that they're playing. Frontline Gaming is not yet as into the kill team scene as I want them to be. And I'm sure if I talked to Reese about that, he would say, go forth, organize a tournament, and I will support you, right?
I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming
Right,
soon.
but I'm
Yeah.
open. And to that end, if they put on something at BAO, I will be there. And if they put on something at the SoCal Open, I will try to go to that as well. But currently, I don't think there is a kill team event at BAO, and I reached out to them, and they said they're working on it. But anyway, LVO, it's amazing. It's a big event. If you play in the champs, it is exhausting, and I did.
I can imagine. Yeah.
As did Elliot, who organized the kill team tournament. And then, on the third day, you get up and you're hungover, and you drag yourself out of bed, and you go and you play some kill team.
Yeah, so in the last chat, obviously both Elliot and Alex mentioned there was a little bit of a Vegas attrition rate going on. How bad was it actually on the ground?
Well, I mean, I would imagine that the people who came to play all showed up, right? I mean, like myself, I did not feel good that morning. And if it
Okay.
had been any other game, I would not have gotten out of bed. But I was very motivated to play in the Kill Team tournament. I thought that I could do very well. I kind of wanted to prove that to myself. And so I was like, you know what, no matter what, I just got to be there. And if I play 2 games and then I go and, get another drink or something, then so be it. Right. I'm going to make sure I'm going to get in there and get in the door. And I think that and the players who came to seriously play all did that same thing. And I think a lot of folks who kind of signed up for fun. I know I was talking briefly to Val Heffelfinger at the event, who's kind of a name in the 40K community. He signed up, but I don't think he played much for, it was just a lark, right? So of
Yeah,
course,
of course. Yeah, yeah. As you said, most people are
wow,
there for 40K.
right, right. So be it.
Excellent.
So yeah.
Okay.
So not too, we had almost 40 folks, I think, and I think all the best players who were going to show up were probably there.
No doubt. So let's move on from the LVO in general because obviously that's already been covered a little bit. I'm more
Sure.
curious about. So obviously you're on here because you've got some pedigree behind you now. You made it to top 2 with Eldar, and as I said in my vague generic list coverage on my channel, from me hanging around on Reddit, Facebook, Discord groups, etc., it's generally said that the Eldar, the Asuryani, are not a top tier list. But obviously, you got to the top tier with them.
Right. Right.
So, do you think that is more because people do not yet know what the tiers actually are, and it's a little bit more of people
Absolutely.
jumping on a bandwagon? Someone says Death Guard's tough, everybody else without playing them or losing once to them says, yeah, they're pretty tough, actually, I don't like them. Or do you think it's more a case of actually the game is remarkably well balanced and there isn't going to be a tier list? Do you think you
Uh,
can win with any faction? Is the question.
I don't think I can win with any faction, but there might be somebody who can win with any faction, right? Um, so the first thing I'll say is that we are so early in Kill Team. I mean, when 8th edition came out, it was all about the Primarchs. They're unbeatable. If you bring Mortarion, it's just cheese. You're gonna win, or Bobby G or whatever,
Sure.
right? So just bring that, and obviously that was so untrue. Not much has changed with that, and yet those guys don't even make it, right? They're not even gatekeepers. Right now, the meta and the Reddit conversation is dominated by talk of gatekeeper armies, right? And a gatekeeper
Yeah.
army, you can define it different ways, but I would call it an army that a casual player really struggles with, right? They think it's unbeatable because they just kind of bring what they bring and roll some dice, and they're going to get blown out of the water. And the second feature I think a gatekeeper army has is that it's pretty easy to play, or at least it's easy to play to a certain standard, right? So the 40K equivalent is the Castellan, right? A lot of
Vanguard.
1 and 2, like a lot of lower tier players can play a Castellan and they're going to get to maybe a mid tier, right? They're not gonna win. Brandon Grant obviously won, so that's not to say that it's not a skill based army too. It's just they have kind of a high floor, and they're very very daunting to kind of the rank and file player. And but that's got nothing to do with what's actually gonna win when 2 really good people sit down and play. Because among other things, a lot of those gatekeeper armies, there's kind of one way that people play them, or they've learned to play them, right? Maybe
Sure.
they watch George Rollins podcast, everything from Nova. He had that amazing content. I don't know if you're from Warp Charge Gaming, and you
Yeah, I saw
see
it.
how he played Death Guard and did an incredible job, and that kind of taught a lot of people how to play Death Guard one way really well.
Yeah.
And so you take that to your store and you play somebody who didn't watch the video, and you're certainly going to win. But on the other hand, I mean, I watched those videos, and then I played my Asuryani against a lot of Death Guard. I mean, I played against myself playing Death Guard, and that's a faction I'm very confident against because of that. Now, if I played a guy who had a 20-man Death Guard roster and he knew what my army could do and he swapped it up, that might be a different story. But when I play guys with Death Guard, they've got the George Rollins special, as I call it. That's what they're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
I don't know if he even invented that list, might have been, but he's the guy I learned about.
Okay, fair enough. So, not that it matters, but would you say that Death Guard are the gatekeeper army for Kill Team?
I think Death Guard are a gatekeeper army. I think Harlequins are definitely a gatekeeper. I mean, that's an army people are terrified of. And I think Harlequins are not only a gatekeeper army, but they're kind of a gimmick army in the sense they only do one thing, right? And that's another term kind of from Big 40K. If a list only presents one problem to solve, well, I mean, it better be an unsolvable problem. And of course, no problem is unsolved. Right?
Yes,
so
things can be solved. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a solution to them. I mean, I played Harlequins in the LVO. It was my third game. So, and that's another list I practiced against a lot because I know it's out there. I think that Tyranids are going to be a gatekeeper list. I also think that Tyranids really do have a lot of. I mean, they're a very flexible army.
They are very flexible. Yeah.
But the current, the list that beat me, that 20-man list, it has one huge disadvantage, and that's that exactly what you're going to face. He's only got one roster, right? I mean, he's only got one option to bring to the table. And so one of the guys I play against in kind of my friend group brings Tyranid. And so I did not practice a lot against Tyranids myself. Like, I didn't design a super good Tyranid list and play against it. I'd seen him bring Lictors. I'd seen him bring Warriors. I had never played that actual 20-man list, although I had suggested something like it to my friend because I was like, I think the little guys will really do for you. But he never brought it. And so when I faced it and when I heard about it, actually the GW rep was the one who told me about the list. He's like, somebody who's got 20 Tyranids, I think he's going to tear it up. And I was like, well, I'm good against hordes. I mean, I practiced a lot against cultist spam, and I kind of it slipped my mind until I got to the game that he was not going to have to take any nerf tests. And then that's, so of course, that's a factor.
Yes. Well,
that's a big factor.
So, talking about that, the only thing I really heard about your game, because I don't know how the game actually went, was that obviously he was bringing a 20-man list.
Right.
But to my mind, I'm like, okay, well, that's obviously really difficult because they have to take nerve tests and break tests. But then I hear that you killed the warrior very early on, didn't you?
I did, yeah, first turn.
First turn kill of the thing that makes that army effective, which shocked me, but didn't quite get the win. What happened there? Because obviously killing the warrior first turn is like, oh, game's in the bag.
Well, let me ask you this. Before I go into that, do you want me to talk about kind of the 6 games in a row? Or do you want me to go straight to the finale?
No, okay, let's build up. So,
build up, right? Because I mean, the 6th game is it's a cool game.
Yes.
It's a cool game. And I don't know if it's easy to watch. I've tried to watch the game, and it's a little slow, and I can't hear myself. But I still think it's worth watching. And I mean, I love that Alex, filmed it and everything like that. But I don't know if a lot of people have seen the game. You can see it, and I would encourage you to watch it. I think there's a lot to
I will put a link down below.
Right.
In that case,
but
how about let's start with prep. How did you prep for the tournament? So before we get to game 1, what was your regime, your regimen?
Right. Well, I'll tell you. The first thing I did when I learned about the Nova packet, I got very excited because I read those missions and I was like, oh man, this is going to be a game. This is worth, because before that Kill Team in the book, like me and my buddies were going to play, but I wasn't sure that it would even have a tournament format. But when I saw Nova, I was excited. I don't have terrain. I built Legos. I built my own Nova Lego terrain.
Okay.
I had butcher paper that I drew lines on to kind of accommodate all the maps. And I made myself an Eldari team and a Drukhari team. because that's kind of the models I can support.
Sure.
And I thought, like everybody else in the world, I thought the Eldari might be a little weak, right? I thought in my first list looked like the Eldari lists that I've seen online. It had a couple Rangers. It had a melee Exarch as an option to swap in, and my Drukhari list, had the Darklands with the snipe, kind of the good Drukhari list. In fact, I mean, the list I played in round 4 is exactly the list that I devised for the Drukhari.
Okay.
Which is part of the reason I probably won that game.
Yeah.
So in any way, I played probably 20 games, my Drukhari against my Eldari, just trying to get a sense of how the armies played. And what I learned in the course of that was that the Eldari have a lot of flexibility and a lot of ability to play to objectives and to kind of vary up how they play in a given game and kind of change strategy midway. I was really impressed with that. And I got to the point where I was never beating my Eldari with my Drukhari, right? So partially perhaps because I was favoring, I was starting to favor the Eldari in my mind.
Yeah.
But in that course, that's how I decided that would be the army I would bring. And then by then Nova had happened, and then George put up all his videos of every game he played, and Elliot posted it. Elliot, who won, right, and they organized the tournament, he posted his list. So I made a George list, and I started playing against it. And then I made an Elliot list, and I started playing against it. And then I looked, and people were scared of Harlequins, so I made a Harlequin list out of Howling Banshees, and I played against it. And a few other. I made I'll tell you, the list I had the hardest time with that I made was a kind of a Primaris Space Marine list with the scouts with the rock.
Throwing.
Yeah, two moves, which are really hard. They ignore the flesh wound.
Yeah.
So, just a little bit challenging. That's a challenging thing for my army, which often does one wound at a time. I mean, it's got some bigger weapons, but and I'll tell you, those Marine scouts with a missile launcher that kind of can hit anywhere with the Auspex and stuff. That was I struggled a little bit with that, and that's when I started really moving into the 12-man list instead of a 10-man list.
Okay.
That's when I started experimenting, because what I found in those games is that I had to put a few guys out there as bait, or I had to put a few guys out there to die, or if the Reaver got through, I had to sacrifice charge somebody into him.
Okay.
And I'd rather have a Storm Guardian to do those jobs.
Okay,
right?
Sense. Sure.
So that's kind of where I developed started to favor the Storm Guardians a little bit more, and then to be honest, in 4 I really prepped for the LVO, the champs at LVO, the 2,000 point, because I had so many fewer reps, with 2,000 point lists. So then my attention turned. I had to get that army painted and everything like that. And when I was actually sitting at the first game in Kill Team, I had a lot of confidence about how my army performed, and I'd still gone to a game every couple of weeks with my buddies and stuff. But I had to sit there for a second and try to remember my rosters and everything. It had been a little bit out of my mind. So there you go.
Cool. So basically, your tactic was look up the previous winners, make sure you can beat the winners, look up the gatekeeper lists as you spoke about earlier. The Harlequins. Death Guard. You didn't mention playing against them, but Death Guard.
Right.
And that was your prep.
That's right. And partially I did a lot of playing against myself, because the people I would play at the game store or amongst my friends, although they had, they're good people and they're fun to play against, I would be scared of something and then they wouldn't do it, right? And then I'd win the game.
Sure. Yeah.
But what if they'd done that thing I was scared of, So that's when I started, that's kind of why I was pretty motivated to do the prepping. And unfortunately, or, whatever. I don't, although, the guy who beat me, he does live in my town, so maybe I'll start getting together with him. Oh. But the guys I regularly play with, they're not competitive guys. They're painters, They're painters, they're terrain makers.
They're hobbyists.
They're hobbyists, and they love the game, and they went with me to LVO to support me, but they did not compete themselves.
That's your prep. Makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. Certainly, I've got Warhammer World coming up in a month or so, month and a bit. I haven't done anything you've suggested there yet, So I'm going to take notes. I'm going to take notes.
There's still
so I can
time.
do that, yeah. So you're there. You've partially forgotten what your roster does, but you know it. I guess the first question is, when it comes to list building, as we spoke about mustering and the muster phase
Right.
with Elliot and Alex in the last chat, did you ever actually genuinely muster a 100-point army from scratch? Or did you know, okay, well, this guy's bringing a swarm, so I'm going to swap out this one model, maybe this two models, because you don't need a star cannon, you'd rather have the scatter laser.
Right.
Something
Well,
small.
the list has about 15 permutations, but they are not. I mean, it's because, you know, either I'm going to have fusion guns, or I'm going to have flamers, or I'm going to have neither.
Yeah, okay.
And then for each of those three, either I'm going to have the star cannon, or I'm not. And then for each of those six, either I'm going to have storm guardians, or I'm not. Right. So there's just, you know, like three elements I'm moving around, but when you combine them all, there's, you know, three lists would, as you guys talked about the other day, if you can only do three lists, man, that would really, really restrict my Eldari list. I would probably bring a different army to that tournament, because I don't think I'd have enough flexibility to face all the things I would expect to face. And plus, I mean, that tournament is going to have, you know, a Tyranid horde who also has two other lists to swap. So hit the strong list got stronger.
Yeah. We will talk about that after game 6.
Right.
Hit us with the games.
Okay.
What happened?
Fair enough. So the first game, I was facing a guy who's playing cultist spam. Right. He did not have 19 cultists. He had maybe 12, and then a couple Chaos Space Marines. His name was Nick. And I don't think Nick is a super competitive player. But he had a list that works, and he thought it out. And he didn't know how. I mean, he knew how to play it. He certainly knew the rules of the game quite well. But I don't think he was coming to win. Like he wasn't stressing out if the game didn't go well. He was kind of having a good time. And to the point, he had nicely painted models. And what did he do? Turn. He asked for the Chaos God's blessing on one of his units, right?
Yeah, okay.
Which could be viable, but he picked kind of a key unit, and then he rolled a 1, and it died.
No. Okay. Well,
and I told him, I'm like, hey man, it's not that that's a terrible idea, but why don't you do it on the cultist with the heavy stubber next time?
Yeah.
Because you can afford to lose that guy, and he gains more.
Yes.
So that I won that game 18-0.
Ouch.
So I know how to play Chaos Spam. That was something that was one of the, I didn't talk about it, but that's one of the lists I practiced against.
That was
I think it's a good matchup,
lists, wasn't it? Or at least it was one of the top lists from Nova.
That's the one.
I
think that might be the list that George lost to at Nova.
Oh.
And I know Elliot said he was scared of it. So I think between those two things, I was like, I think, in fact, although Elliot did not face it in the actual game, I believe he lost to that guy just casually on the side. And I think he said he lost to him twice.
Interesting.
So I was like, okay, that's a list to think about. But the thing is, like, cultist spam, they move up and they take all the objectives. But then they can't really shoot because their guys can't advance and shoot.
Yep.
And my guys move up, contest all the objectives, and then shoot. And that's just a bad first turn, right? Because and then they can't, if they lose 3 guys, then all the flesh wounds, so I never target a guy. I mean, I hit a guy once. In fact, I'll split my 2 shuriken shots between 2 different cultists. I want the maximum number of flesh wounds.
Make them break.
And I mean, every guy who gets, if I as long as I kill 2 or 3 guys, pretty much every flesh wound is a lost model. And I almost, by round 3, I outnumber it, and I'm ahead in score. So anyway, that's it went down that way. I'm sure the dice didn't do him any favors. I mean, you don't get to 18-0 easily, right?
no, that's a bad dice rolling day. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that was. I mean, I felt way him losing the heavy bolter guy the first turn was that was kind of and having no command points. He had a heck of a hole to dig out of.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That was game 1.
Okay.
Game 2, I went up against a guy named Sheldon, who's somewhat local. He lives in San Francisco, and he runs events out of Gamecast, which is kind of that's where the BAO has been in the past. It's
I've heard of it.
famous game store in Mountain View. And he brought a Necron list, and I had not played Necrons. I had not heard about Necrons. None of my friends play Necrons. That was an absolute unknown. I did not even know their power. I did not know. And he told me it. And very courteously, he told me, if you bring multi-damage weapons, it's just going to make it better for me. And I'm like, that can't be right. I mean, I looked it up.
Yeah, it's a confusing one.
Right. But the rules are absolutely clear. You have to take the highest. There was no question. And I quickly looked. I'm reading the codex entries, and so he had 10 flayed ones. Or 10 points. It was the easiest army in the world to quickly calculate. to Elliot's point, like
Yes.
you have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was no question. His list was legit, and he was super. I mean, just a great guy to play. Super courteous. If he had not told me that before I mustered, I almost certainly would have brought fusion guns, because I'm just thinking Necrons is kind of like a Space Marine, right? Toughness 4. I would have brought fusion guns. I would have brought star cannons. He gave me that piece of courteous advice, and so I did not bring those things. I brought. I didn't know he was going to have 10 flayed ones exactly, right? But I don't remember if he told me that was his intent or what. But anyway, I had flamers and no star cannon.
Oh, sorry.
And I was very scared.
His list was 10 flayed ones.
10 flayed ones.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, which is not a great matchup for me. No. Because I mean they're gonna, there's 10 of them, right? They're gonna put pressure on the board. They're not that easy to take out, because if you roll the 6, so I quickly saw I'm gonna have to save rerolls every turn, because I can never get a 6 on an injury roll. Yeah. I'm gonna have to plink away at these guys, because the odds, especially if they're in cover, the odds that you get a kill right off the bat are not something you can count on. Definitely. And so if I'm plinking away with the wounds, then I get a 6, it's like I start from 0. So that's got to be the command point focus. And then I think on top of that, I think I had to go first, which is not great against a melee list.
No.
But what I do is I go out and I spread across the board. I try to set up some Overwatch. I try to set up some tough charges, and make sure that if things go right for me, I'm going to have a lot of objectives. And then we got to the shooting phase, and I only accomplished one thing. Now, the one thing I did pretty good. I had moved my veteran to the far back corner, which is going to allow me to get the 3 table edges, which is my secondary, right? And also it's going to, I can threaten the objective back there, and it's going to split his forces. That's I'm always trying to split forces in a situation like that. And so he had unobstructed shots at the leader. He shoots 4 times, and I do, if I can, I always spend a command point to give him reroll misses. Right, that's the Exarch. So that's he really generates some shots, and he ended up killing the opposing leader the first turn. So that was nice, but I did not kill anything else. I think I put 1 flesh wound on one thing, and all of his guys. Like some of them had made it into charge, other ones had moved up to get closer. So I was a little bit pressed on board control, and I think the points were very equal. And I will admit I probably thought I wasn't going to win that game after the first turn.
Okay. Even though you managed to kill the leader.
Well, it was only 1 guy out of 10, and it turns out I didn't know at the time Necrons don't have any good strategies. Oh. Well. So it was kind of he didn't really need the command points as bad as like I would, right? I mean, I'm using them to fall out of combat. I'm using them to get an auto 6. I'm using them to avoid his terrible injury roll, and so ultimately.
Curiosity there. Sorry. Yeah. Do you ever? I can't remember what it's called, but the tactic where you move, fire, and can then move back again. Is that a staple tactic for you? Or?
That is such an amazing tactic. I don't use it as much as I should, and I would never use it to move, fire, and then fall back. I would use it to move, fire, and then take the objective behind him.
Okay. So you use it to push.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is an amazing power, because then I've got my veteran and a second guy who potentially can get onto the other side of the board the first turn. Yeah. I did not use that as much as I should have. And when we get to the 6th game, I will talk about how I probably should have used it there, but I didn't.
Quick
But no,
question
that's
there. Is it counted as a, I don't have the card to hand, is it counted as a normal move? And so in arena, could
it's
people
just
walk
7
through the
inches.
door? Oh, okay. It's just a seven. Okay, fair enough.
Just 7 inches, and so I don't think it's a normal move. And yeah, we can. That'd be something interesting. Talking about doors in arena, I think those rules are very ambiguous, and I'd maybe when we get to the end, I'll talk to you about why I think that.
Okay, yeah, I look forward to it.
There you go. So anyway, the second game, I ended up, just pushing forward with him, trying the guys he didn't. Now, of course, the thing is, Necrons, like witches, like Tyranids, like Harlequins, they're scary, but they don't actually kill everything they get into melee with, right?
No, sure.
I mean, they don't. Even best case scenario, it's an injury, right? They only do 1 damage. So, he didn't kill everything. He killed a few things. And I fell back out of combat, and now he's right. That is the one
I
thing.
lost you
So
for a second there. What happened, sorry? After he fell back out of...
I'll fall back, right? And then he's got a Necron who can't do anything,
Yep, okay,
right?
sure.
They don't shoot.
No,
They don't have a gun at all.
yeah.
So once you fall back, the only thing they can do is maybe move to take an objective. So I made enormous use of that tactic. And in fact, in the third and fourth turn, I think I went first almost every turn, which, good and bad. But I was charging his guys to lock him into position.
Okay, to make sure they
I
couldn't
think
get the charges they wanted, or to
Right.
get onto the victory points or
Right.
objectives you
I was
decided.
keeping him on his
Okay.
side of the board, basically. And ultimately it was a bloody game. I think we both lost 4 or 5 models. I did not have that many flesh wounds, so not too many guys got stunned. But I managed to. He never got into my table quarter. My Exarch never got killed in the very back of the board, so he was always kind of back there threatening those objectives. And ultimately, I pulled out a 14-13 win. I maxed 2 of my secondaries. I think if I look, I wrote them all on my packet, and I'm pretty sure I took Scout the Field. I took Prey on the Weak and Scout the Field, and I would have maxed. So I took Prey on the Weak, of course, because I expected to put out a lot of flesh wounds and then have to keep plinking away.
Okay.
I maxed that one, and I maxed Scout the Field. I never got sector cleared. I tried for it the whole time.
Interesting. So the VP being so close on that one, do you think it was basically a dice roll away, or did you actually kind of have it in hand after, you're like, yeah, I think I've got this?
I never had that one in hand. I don't remember a specific dice roll. In fact, when we first calculated the score, we thought it was a tie, and then we kind of looked at all the secondaries and stuff again, and I had one. I had that Scout the Field in that final turn, and that kind of made all the difference. I was hoping to get a tie. I would say until the very last minute. And I know in the final 2 turns, something that was kind of critical is he had a guy who had to make like a 9-inch charge to get over to my side.
Okay.
And he tried it 2 turns in a row, and he failed, and he didn't choose to move part of the way. And he kind of kept him back, and then he failed again the next time. So that might have been a move that was critical.
Okay.
But yeah, that was cool. And I think the GW rep watched a good portion of that game too. So he was kind of. I don't think he was expecting to see Necrons or Asuryani, right? So
No, yeah, not on the bottom table. So. Didn't you guys both lose that game? Surely. No. Awesome. So as a second win, this one less decisive as the first, which was
Absolutely.
brutal. How are you feeling at this point? 2 games? Good? Bad?
I was feeling good. I was really happy that I pulled out a win against a kind of caught me by surprise, and that felt like a kind of a strong counter to me, or it's not a counter, at least a strong matchup against me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And Sheldon played a good game too. I don't think he wasn't making a lot of mistakes. I mean, he was spreading out. He was making his charges and stuff like that, and it just I got the edge at the very end then. But so going into the third game, I was up against Harlequins, and I felt really good again because I practiced against Harlequins a lot. And I think that they have a really hard time on my list because he had a 6-man Harlequin team, and they're just going to struggle so hard. You got on objectives, right? And I mean, they're not all going to make their charges. So some are just going to be hanging out there, and I'm going to gun them down like the clowns they are.
Yeah.
And the guy I was playing was a guy named Josh, who's actually from the game store I go to, believe it or not. And we had never played before. Josh had the meta Harlequin list, but he had not played a huge amount of Kill Team. He was a good 40k player, and he knew the game well, like he knew the rules and stuff. But we started playing the first turn, and he's like, I've never seen anyone play like you're playing, and I see why you're playing that way.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I've never played against a good player before. Trust me, I struggle with the same issue as him.
Right. Well, I mean, Josh, I think himself, he doesn't have the reps maybe with Harlequins, and certainly had never faced Asuryani. So,
Sure.
And he had to go first, which is, I think, almost death for Harlequins against me.
Not what you want, definitely.
Yeah, he had to. Most of his guys, his vet got a charge. And that's actually kind of an interesting story. But the rest of his guys didn't, and so he moved him somewhere, and I moved on to and shot with every one of my guys, right? And he lost 2 models, and after that it was 4-12.
Yeah,
Well,
that's tough.
It wasn't 4-12 because. So what I like to do against Harlequins, if they've got their vet, I put my guys in little groups of 2, because if they make a double charge, I could always fall back with one of them if I really don't want a double charge to happen. But I kind of like the double charge because a Harlequin is really, 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 really unlikely to kill 2 of my guys with one Harlequin.
Yep.
But he's going to split the attacks. He's going to try. And, I swear to God, in my play, it's like he ends up with 1 flesh wound and 1 nothing. And I mean, of course, 50-50, it's a flesh wound or a kill. But whatever. And then he's in a terrible spot, right? Because he's locked in. I've got 1 guy. I'm all set to kill the next turn. Well, Josh double charged, and he killed both of them. So he did. All right. He did get that. But I mean, after that, it was just, so he killed 2 of my guys, so it was 10-4. But weight of fire, right? I mean, I just had so many guys. And then, how can you get the objectives? We were playing, yard by yard, which kind of has 5 objectives. He's only got 4 guys. Like, obviously, I'm going to get. It's going to be 3-0 for primaries, first round and second round, and he's going to have to do a lot of killing to get past that. And of course, as will happen with Harlequins, you feel like they can charge anywhere, but they can't, right? I mean, one of them is going to roll bad, right? Or 2 of them are going to roll bad, and they're going to use a reroll, and so 1 or 2 guys was left hanging in the second round. By the third round, he had 1 guy left, and that was that. It was 14-3 was the final score.
Okay, big win. Big win. Now, you said that your tactic against Harlequins is to have 2 of your guys stood next to each other. Did you find that out during testing, or was that just your initial thought, just like, I'll do this and see if it works, and it did?
Well, the first time I played against Harlequins in testing, I didn't actually they could charge potentially from across the board. You know what I mean? Like, I was sitting there measuring, and I'm like, okay, I declare a charge against every member of the army, and I'm going to roll the dice and see what happens, right? And then I ended up doing the triple charge, and nobody could fire Overwatch because I was sitting behind a wall. And I was like, oh, wow, that is kind of terrifying.
Strong.
Right. And so then thereafter, I kind of always was careful about the spacing. And if you got 12 bodies, it's kind of hard to prevent a double charge. So you can ensure a triple charge won't happen if you kind of double them up.
Okay.
And then I found out, I mean, actually, the second thing I found out that first game, when the Harlequin gets a triple charge, it's actually not as good as it seems, because then you kill him, and he can't afford to lose bodies.
No, indeed. Okay. Okay. Now, maybe we should leave this till the end as we discuss Arena in general, but
sure.
I suspect that Harlequins, as you say, they're probably one of them, maybe 2, is actually going to roll poorly on the charge, not get it off. Have you played much Arena yet? Have you seen just how tight those boards are?
I have. I've played all 8 of the missions. I got home. I mean, and I haven't. Okay, now let me tell you, I haven't played against real people. I played against me, right? Sure. But I've played all the missions. I've tried it out with Deathwatch, with Harlequins, with Drukhari, with Asuryani, and with the Necron. Played once just because that fight scared me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that right now, but I have opinions.
Let's save it. I'll add it to the list. Okay.
Sure.
So you won that quite decisively. So you've had 2
Right.
easy wins, at least if you look at the VP, and 1 very close one. Game 4.
Game 4, I went up against Eric. Eric watches your channel, so he's probably gonna see this video. And
Is his
so
name
Eric,
on YouTube just Eric?
yeah,
Okay, yeah, I know.
and he seemed to me like a very good player. I will tell you, the 4th match is the hardest match. It's exhausting. I know Bjorn did say the same thing. You get to that 4th game, and especially kind of starting out hungover, I was like, man, I mean, I'm 3-0. Obviously, play a better guy, right? Every game is harder.
Exactly.
The
Yeah,
pressure
sure,
is just
sure.
building. And I mean, Eric, he's got a bit of intensity about him. I could tell he was going to be a guy who was going to know his stuff. He was playing Drukari, and I knew so that was a plus and a minus. So I knew his list was good because it was the list I had devised for Drukari, and I thought it was the very best
So
one.
I'm
He had,
assuming heavy witches.
yeah, I think. I want to say 5 or 6. He's going to have a sniper, a comms guy, and actually that was the one deviation. Mine did not have a comms guy; it had just a regular Kabalite. So 4 Kabalites. One of them's going to have a shredder. One of them's going to have a dark lance.
Yep.
That's the sniper, a leader Kabalite with a phantasm grenade launcher, and then 1 Kabalite because that just is what rounds out the score, and then 6 witches, which is going to. Hecatrix, and I think they're called Hecatrixes, and 2 special weapon witches. And he had the Impaler for all 3 of them. I liked this slight deviation. I mixed it up with some Hydra gauntlets too. I'd be the Impaler, 2 damage. That's those
thing.
kills. And he rolled +1 toughness for his witch power, which probably not his favorite option, but. It's okay. It's something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it means that with your catapults, you're wounding on 4s instead of 3s.
Right.
Pretty
That's
good
right.
still, I guess.
Yeah.
Within that power and that combat drugs, though, to be fair.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was the setup, and I had to go first, which is not my favorite thing against that army. So we were playing. The mission is called Raised Archive. I took engage on all fronts, recon sweep, and proximity alert. So 2 board control ones. And so my first round, I took the 2 side objectives.
Yep.
Had some guys up in the middle of the board, and I kind of spaced it. I wasn't super happy with my spacing, but the general concept is I want a flamer at like exactly 8 inches. That would be ideal, right? And then maybe like a Storm Guardian a little bit farther forward in one place. And that idea is that they might be baited into trying a multi-charge, in which case I'm going to get a grenade and a flamer overwatch on them. Okay. Or if they do, or they take the easy charge where I still get a decent overwatch. I mean, a grenade overwatch is no joke. Witches are very vulnerable to overwatch. And then they're if they take that, they're really just not right, and that's kind of ideal. I want my side of the board. So I did that, and I think that I mean I know that's the right move. I'm fairly confident it's the right move against Drukari. And then we kind of had a gun duel between his sniper and my star cannon, which we both spent all of our command points on. We both had to get
it could have been a decider. Because that
could have been a decider if it had gone that first round, but it did not. We both missed.
Okay, all right.
It could. I think it could be a factor, but and so then he lost a witch in Overwatch. I don't exactly remember where, but I think he lost one witch in Overwatch, and then I think he missed another charge, and then he might have made 1 charge. So. He was kind of, he didn't like just risk it all on charging. He got guys in position for the next round and kind of out of line of sight. So in the shooting phase, I don't believe I really accomplished anything else. I think I just got that 1 kill on Overwatch. And, Eric, if you have different remembrances, he can comment and he'll tell us. But point-wise, I did really well. I was probably up 5 to 3 or 4-2. I don't remember. I know Eric took evaluate find, and I'll tell you, I don't like evaluate find if I think a game is going to be tough, because evaluate find is where you have one dude just sit there by an uncontested objective and get you a point, right? And you can't do anything.
Extra VP a turn, basically.
Right. And so if I'm playing witches, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm going to keep them off my side of the board, in which case I'm winning, and I don't need that VP. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. Running up the score is great, but I mean, I don't need it. Or I'm losing because he got over to my side of the board, and then I need secondaries that I got a chance to score, and I'm not going to be able to score it in that circumstance, right? So it's only there, in my opinion, it's only there if you don't need it. And that's not, I expected it to be a tough match. So that's why I did not pick that one. So the second round did not go great for him. I don't remember who went first, but the ultimate result was that I moved 2 of my guys onto his side of the board. One in position for recon sweep, one contesting his objective. And I think I must have gone second because he was not able to address that, and he did not get any primary points as a result in the second turn. I didn't quite realize that at the time. I was just kind of playing for the objectives. I think we both fired uselessly with our big guns again. He made some charges, but he could not get any kills. You know, he got flesh wounds, what have you. He did kill the guy I got back there into recon sweep. He kind of had to direct all of his fire into that. But ultimately, he couldn't dislodge my Exarch, couldn't get his kill for, I'm sure he took cut apart. And I don't want to say I was nervous after the second round, but, his dice hadn't gone great. And my general feeling, if somebody's dice don't go great, then I'm probably going to get hammered the next turn because, dice come and go, right? Like, you can't count on that.
Dice can't. Yeah.
So, and I was like, man, he is going to be all over me. He's going to start really killing some units. And then we ran the score, and he's like, I didn't get any points. He didn't get a single point. That's my record of the second turn. And so it was like 9-2. And at that point, I'm like, well.
What happened to the guy sitting at the back on the objective that was doing evaluate?
I challenged him.
Oh, okay.
I put the Exarch on him. Right, so he couldn't hold the objective. He couldn't evaluate. I don't think he was. Yeah, I don't remember if he moved first and just he might have, because he was trying to shuffle his witches around. He might not have been able to do evaluate fine that time. But in any case, once I put the Exarch there, it was kind of he was never going to be able to get it again. Yeah. He was certainly counting on getting a cut apart. I would have thought that he would have taken proximity alert and get that, but and maybe he did. But my recollection is maybe he just didn't take that one. He took something else instead. The bottom line is I thought it was going to be tough. And then we did the score after the second round. And I'm like, oh, wow, even if the dice just turn against me, I think I've just got so many bodies and I'm so much on his side of the board. Oh, and this was the thing that really took him off his game. Right. He forgot to charge one of his witches.
Oh, okay.
Just literally. I didn't notice it immediately either. And then my turn came around, and I'm like, I'm gonna shoot that witch right there.
Yeah. Okay.
So that, and that really, that shook him up. On top of the fact that, so between that and then he didn't get his kill, he was very frustrated after that, and I think that probably also contributed to the. So ultimately. The next 2 turns went. He did kill a bunch of my guys in the third turn, but it was too late. I still had board control, and the final score I think was 14-4. And I know he he conceded after 3 turns. And I had talked to Elliot about how score works. And Elliot had said, well, if you concede or table, then you still score secondaries. And then he's like, well, I don't want to just give you secondaries. That's not fair. So I think I don't remember if we just gave. Looking at the score 14-4, I think we might have just. Third round. That was the 4th game, and glad I stuck it out.
Question there though.
Yeah.
If he had conceded and you'd done it officially, would that have affected your score enough that you wouldn't have gotten to the second place? Or was it not decided?
Well, I was the top ranked player out of the first 4.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So I was the top ranked player by about 6 points. Because I think the first thing was the total score. So I went into round 3 as the highest scored the number one seed, if you will, and I came out of it number one seed. And I think if we had played the fourth round, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I would have. He might have gotten more points. I mean, I think he might have got a couple more points, but he couldn't win, and it wouldn't have changed. I don't think that it wouldn't have changed the seeding in any case. So that was that, and I was like, damn, got through it. And then I was like, I don't know if I'm going to stay for the championships because I'm tired. I have a flight out at 10:30.
Right.
And then they came up and they're like, you want to be on the stream? And I'm like, oh my God, stream.
Brilliant. Yeah, okay. Gotta stay.
Never mind. I will be there. So then, I mean, I'm calling my wife. I'm like, baby, I'm doing good in this tournament. You gotta figure out how to use Twitch. Watch me.
Brilliant. Did she figure it out? Did she watch?
She did. Well, and she was able to text with my buddy who was there with me, and he's pretty savvy about that kind of stuff. She's a millennial too, so she knows that stuff better than I do.
Okay.
You had to deal with a little bit of my, my technological backwardness and figuring out Discord and stuff.
Well, no, that's fine because it's good. If you'd known how to work a phone, she could have been on that Discord or on the text saying, "Hey, tell him to move the model here," giving you tips.
Right. That's right.
Because you didn't know how to work.
God knows.
It worked.
God knows she's the better player, right?
It's always the way it is. It's always the way it is.
So the one thing about that is, man, you're in Gellerpox infected. Now, on one hand, I've never seen them before, but on the other hand, although we spent quite a bit of time explaining our units because both of us had never played the other, I kind of quickly decided that they were basically tactically the same as Death Guard.
Question. Is this the guy that ended up on the second table? On table 2?
Yeah. His name was Chris.
Okay.
And so we were playing, he was the 4th seed.
Right.
So it was 1st seed against 4th seed.
Yeah. Okay.
And so he basically
like this with him later, by the way. So we're going to get his view on this game. So
good.
You're going to be taken to task if you mess up.
Right. Well, so he brought, I don't know exactly what his units are called, but he brought 2 giant ogres that were devastating in melee, which is also what Deathwatch has.
Yep.
Or Death Guard has. I'm always going to say. And then he's got a bunch of little guys that are going to control objectives and stuff, just like Death Guard. And then he doesn't have any shooting, but his little guys are faster. But my strategy against the Death Guard is to kind of ignore their shooting. So from my tactical perspective, that was not an enormous difference. And as I found, I'm really good at Overwatch, right? The Dire Avengers are on 5s. The Exarch's got 2 guns hitting on 5s. Storm Guard, our grenades are much better than other factions' grenades. And I always try to keep a Storm Guardian with that 6-inch. And that cost him in this game because I moved up, as I often do, the veteran into his backfield right off the bat. On his turn, he tried to charge with one of the little bug things. And these bug things are like an Overwatch dream, right? Because I'm shooting 4 times, hitting on 5. So you're going to expect a hit, right? It doesn't, not guaranteed, but you're going to expect a hit. And then I wound on 2s. He doesn't get a save. And on a 3-up, he's dead.
Perfect.
Yeah. So he died. And,
okay. I thought you were going to give us a twist and say, but he got but no.
He didn't. He did not get in. Get in. So, and then, the thing about an Overwatch kill, and I get Overwatch kills almost every game. I mean, I don't think I went through all of them, but I think there was never a game where I didn't get an Overwatch kill, except maybe the 6th game. And they have a profound psychological impact on I believe. I feel like that is the case because after you've kind of mapped out who's going to charge who, and unless you're facing Tau, you're generally not expecting them to die on the way in. And then you lose that first guy or that second guy, and it throws the whole order of operations into disarray, right? And then you're like, okay, well, do I just back off and just move everybody forward, or do I keep trying and maybe lose more? Because once you lose the one, it's like the guy's going to shoot you again, right? So a couple of his other bugs just moved out to take up, and his 2 ogres kind of lumbered down the field, and then he tried to make a charge against 3 of my guys, a fusion gunner and 2 storm guardians, with one of his ogres. And I want to say it was a 9-inch charge. It could have been an 8-inch charge, 8 or 9. So I scattered 2 of the guys. I wanted to kind of minimize the impact if he did make the charge. And I moved them into places I wanted them to be. So they kind of, they're Storm Guardians, they don't need to shoot, right? So the fact that they're falling back is no big deal. One's holding an objective. Another one's kind of creating a second layer of backfield so that he's ready to like charge the ogre if it does do its thing. And then the fusion gunner, I left him there because I wanted him to be able to shoot if the charge failed.
Yep.
Overwatch, never want to ignore Overwatch. I mean, I know it's 1 in 6 with the fusion gun, but if it hits, man. And I figured the other thing is if I fall back with all 3 of them, he's just getting all that much more penetration if he does roll hot. So mitigating risk, I think, is what I'm doing there.
Okay.
Overwatch didn't hit. His charge failed. He rerolled. His charge failed. I killed one of his bugs on an objective, so I held more objectives. I'd killed 2 bugs, and that was where we were at the end of first turn. And I would say I kind of thought the game was won at that point, which I know is quick, right? But the bottom line is you've only got 2 threats, and I've kind of already got the board control. And worst case scenario, I can kind of feed him 1 elf a turn to each ogre, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still going to have 6 left, and his little bugs I've learned are just easy for me to kill. So that being the case, having said that, we still of course had to play the game. So on my turn, I guess this was still the first turn. So I had lined up. I didn't tell you this, but he'd failed his charge. So I had both my fusion guns lined up there. Comm specialed one of them, attacked, and then just came up with nothing. So that is daunting, and I missed the Overwatch. I missed that. So the ogres are going to come in, but I still felt like I kind of had it won. And then the second turn, he charged with the ogre and my fusion gunner, and I did kill him in Overwatch.
Oh,
headshot.
Right.
6, got the 6.
Got the 6.
He was within 6 inches. I got to roll 2 dice for damage. I probably, if I had a reroll on the roll if the through, because that's Overwatch kills are better than other kinds of kills. And with that guy dead, there was simply no hope for him. I had the whole board, and he's got basically a bunch of bugs and 1 little ogre who I just fed an elf to every turn. That's what the Storm Guardians are for, right? They're
okay. Yeah.
conscripts from the slums of Kamara. That's what I've got them painted.
Okay, awesome. So, do you remember what the final VP on that was?
Unfortunately, I don't, but I want to say it was on the order of 14 or 15. It's going to be another 14-4.
Okay.
So that's kind of
interesting. Okay.
It's the score of the match. It's the score of the tournament.
Yeah.
That game is on the stream, so we could go and look at it. And I don't, but I'd be happy to hear Chris's perspective. But he told me beforehand, he's like, it tends to be very quickly I dominate or very quickly I fall behind. And with only 2 good models, I mean, that's just because I had such a good answer for his bugs. He's got little slime creatures and little flies, and because they were not a big threat to me, and I can move almost as well as them, and I can then shoot. When you take that piece away, the 2 ogres are a solvable problem, and that was. I don't think that's a good matchup against me.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, obviously, it had been good enough to get him into the top 4.
But I wouldn't say it's a bad matchup. I think, I mean, and a lot of people are a lot of lists can't deal with the fact that he moves out and he takes all the objectives just like I do.
Yes.
It's just I do it and also shoot, right? So then I shoot the guys that he sent out, and he does not shoot the guys that I sent out, and that's bad, right? But if he's playing against a regular opponent, he gets the objectives. He's up on the score. They're focusing all their attention on these 2 ogres. And, once he gets them in a melee, they're kind of going to be every turn, probably, right? So he went 3-1. I think he did lose 1 game before. So somebody else did kind of what I did. But but he had the highest score of all the 3-1s, right?
Right, sure. Okay.
I think there were only 2 4-0 finishes because the Miguel had a tie against the Tau, the guy we're going to play next.
Okay.
But I think Chuck, who played the Necrons, and who I did not really get to see his army, but because he's talked a lot on Reddit about them, I know about his army. he was 4-0, and I he would have been a formidable adversary for me, I think, for sure. I mean, I'd already had trouble with Necrons once before, and
Yes. He was running a different list, though, wasn't he, I believe?
well, I think he has. I don't know for sure, but I believe he had the option to take a lot, and I don't think he typically exercised that option. But I'm not sure what he would have done if he'd faced me. So
Indeed.
there you go. I don't think the Flight Ones is a bad idea against me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it scared me the first time I faced it. But and him and Eric are buddies. They came down to Seattle, and I think they came just for Kill Team too. And they're obviously very good players. They're going to be at Adepticon. I am sad that I will not be at Adepticon. I think I wish them well. I think they're going to do well there.
Excellent.
So, sixth game,
Tyranids
against Miguel, who's from my town. He's from a suburb of Sacramento. I'm from Sacramento, California.
There's something in the water over there, because you seem to know a lot of the people that were at this time.
I know, it was bizarre that three of us are from Sacramento that I played. So you know Miguel's list, and it's the sixth game of the stream, and we're like chatting and getting to know each other, and we have a lot in common. Our names are the same. He's Miguel. I'm Michael. We both got kids the same age, 3-year-old and an 8-month. He's got a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. I've got a 3-year-old and an 8-month-old. Okay. We're both living in the same town, so we were like,
"It's a mirror match." Yeah.
What the hell's going on here? We both like Kill Team, obviously, and he's an interesting guy, a cool guy. He's got a little bit of an intimidating look, but he's very. I hate to use the word sweet, but he's kind of got the soul of an artist. I mean, he is an artist. That's his job. He kind of got that. Kind of comes through. Anyway, we sit down and we're chatting and stuff. And I think I probably, as I do, I talk for a long. I mean, you're learning that here. I talk for a long time.
Well, me, I just have to sit here. Yeah.
Right. So I'm chatting with him and stuff, and then I eventually noticed that Alex is looking at me. We better play the game, and I had already devised. I mean, in talking with him, I am thinking about the game, and I've devised my strategy. I've got to kill the warrior. But what I didn't do, and I can't account for this, is I did not choose the secondary that would involve me killing the warrior.
Right.
And maybe at the time I was, maybe I was thinking, well, in case I don't, I want to have another option. But I think that was silly, because if I didn't kill it on the first turn, I was going to try to kill it on the second turn, and it's still 2 points. And that was obviously the right move. Didn't do it. And then the other thing I didn't do, because we started getting going and we put our rosters out there and we just rolled the dice. And then I'm like, I should have made a veteran move before we rolled, shouldn't I have? And they're like, yeah, you should have. I'm like, okay. All right, well, veteran moves are for losers. I'm not going to do that. So ideally, in that mission, running battle, I will move my Exarch out. He will, if he gets a good advance roll on his turn, he will move and take the 6-inch advance for a command point, and he can actually get the 3-point objective on the other side of the board in the first turn. If I roll well on my first advance with the veteran move. I was a little ambivalent about that move, because obviously he had a lot of things that were going to come up and quickly contest it, but including the warrior. But I hadn't really decided fully if I was going to go all out like that or not. And then we'd rolled, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. So there you go. And then I rolled, and I had also rolled to go first, which we've talked about against a melee list. That is not my favorite course of events. So I had to move out and try to control the board in such a way that would keep him bottled up, right? That's what I want to do. So I put one flamer on the bottom objective, kind of by himself, just standing there, 2 inches away from a Tyranid. I had a second flamer exactly 8 inches away from the first Tyranid, but a 9-inch charge from the second Tyranid. So either he's going to charge and take Overwatch, or he's going to have to try to make a long charge and hopefully fail it. If he wants to take on that first guy, he's going to have to do it with Termagants, or perhaps shoot with a Warrior, or else charge it with a bunch of Gaunts. And I'd love, that's great. The Flamer might kill several Gaunts.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my speed bump on the bottom of the board. And then in the middle of the board, I put the Exarch, and then I put 3 more guys who all got a little bit further than the Exarch. So the Exarch's right on the objective, and the other 3 guys are kind of forming a semicircle on his side, and they're gonna hold him back. I'm hoping I'll get some Overwatch, right? One guy won't make it, maybe decides to whatever, right? I'm trying to hold him back and get my board control. I need all 4 quarters for engage on all fronts, right? And then the Star Cannon stays back. It's readied. It's going to shoot. I've got a couple guys I keep back, and then one guy runs over to the top of the board. There's not an objective up there, but it's on the way to the big 3-point objective on the opposite side, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that setup. I think that's the right move for the first round if you have to go first. I don't want to say the dice didn't do it, because, I mean, over the course of the game, the dice were fine, right? But the first turn, I didn't get any Overwatch, and he killed all 3 of the guys I'd put on his side of the board. Like, so just all the injury rolls came up good. He made the 9-inch charge on the Flamer, so
Okay.
not a lot of parts of the plan are coming together. Yeah. He did kind of stand off with 3 Termagants against the lone Flamer on the bottom objective. So he held the objective. He kept them 2 inches apart. I mean, he was a very careful player. He managed to get Hormagants through my semicircle all over the place. So he was on the center objective. And I mean, they move pretty fast, and he just very carefully, he's like, okay, we're going to stay an inch away from this guy and move all the way around, and then up and here. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yes.
There you go. That's well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah.
So the one thing that went right for me was I did kill his warrior, and a warrior's not hard for me to kill. I mean, it's got a 4-up save, it's got 3 wounds, that's nice, but I've got the Star Cannon, and the Star Cannon, it's got the comms specialist, so it's 2 shots hitting on 3s or 4. I mean, probably hitting on 4s in that circumstances.
Yep.
But I mean, that's definitely where we're going to reserve the rerolls and stuff. And it did 2 wounds to him, and then I got to put 4 shots on him from the Exarch, and that's I mean, the Exarch is not. I mean, if I roll a 6, it's no armor save, and I think that is what happened. I ended up not having to use the reroll until the injury. I think I rolled a 2 on the injury, rerolled it, got the 4, and that was that. So. I wasn't feeling great after the first turn, but Miguel was not feeling great either. Like he voiced that. He's like, man, I've never hit a game. He's like, I don't care if I lose 5 Gaunts, but I haven't lost a warrior in any of these games today.
Yeah, big.
But you still have to kill. You have to kill some Gaunts, or else it doesn't matter.
No, indeed. True. Got to get.
I think aside from, I don't think I had even put. I think I had 1 flesh wound. The Flamer had fired and put 1 flesh wound, and I'd killed the warrior, and he'd killed 3 of my guys, and also flesh wounded 1 with the venom cannon up in the top. That was the one injury roll that didn't go his way. And that guy got stunned, I believe, because I didn't have any command points left to keep him up. I was feeling a little bleak, but you got to play it out. And what ended up happening, the second turn, he moved in on the Exarch, and that's kind of where the first infamous 6 armor save came up. And it wasn't that important. He was intimidated by the Exarch. He knew how its firing worked and the rolling, hitting on 5s. So he charged it with, the first Gaunt, and I hit him. I wounded him, and he rolled the 6-up armor save. And so then the first Gaunt's in, and obviously 4 more are going to pile in, and that wasn't good. But what did happen is that Exarch kept those 4 Gaunts from getting over to my side of the table. He was not able to kill either of the Flamer guys. They were now both surrounded. The one was not in melee, but the one that was more on my side was in melee, and he brought 2 more guys into the fight.
Right.
He kept the 3 termagants around my other flamer. I think he maybe swapped out the flesh wounded one. And then he started moving across the top of the board, and I had sent a couple more guys to the top of the board to support that stunned guy. And so the one thing that was going well, I think I got an obliteration kill in the second turn. And so the score was not getting away from me. He had got 2 primary points, and I'd gotten 1 the first turn. But I had gotten obliteration, and I honestly... this is a little bit unfortunate. I think we played proximity alert wrong during the game. But the bottom line is I was getting points for it, and I don't think that was right. It is possible for one person to get points and not the other, but I think it mixed up the scenario. Right, because I could have 2 of my guys next to 1 of his guys, and that would give it to me, but not to him. But I don't think that is how it was. And somehow we just got tangled up in how that worked.
Okay.
And he didn't score any other secondaries. He had gotten engage on all fronts, and he'd gotten keep moving, which is it's not bad to take both of them, but they are inconsistent. You can't get them both in the same round.
Right.
And he was kind of focused on getting that board control and getting over to me. He was not focused on the secondaries. So I think at the end of the second turn, we might have even been tied, or it was a 1-point game.
Okay.
So in the third round, he wasn't able to break through on top. He finally killed the guy on the bottom, but he had lost some guys to my shooting. In the meantime, he lost 5 or 6 gaunts, I think, by this point altogether. I'd lost 4 or 5 guys as well. But the dice had turned a little bit. I had done a little bit better, and he was kind of coming up all over me, but he couldn't quite get my 3-point objective. And he'd send a guy over, and then I'd flesh wound him, and he could only save 1, right? So then it's contested, but that's not giving it to him. And then I got a guy out to hold one of the other objectives. So I was able to kind of keep the score going that way. And my winning strategy kept being that if I can keep him from ever getting that 3-point objective, and I can get my obliteration points, then the score is going to stay kind of even, because it wasn't until the third turn that he was like, okay, forget this, I'm going to get engaged on all fronts and get my that way, right? He was sort of focused on his thing, and after the second turn, I just couldn't get an obliteration. I would shoot a gaunt every turn, and I would just in fact 2 times in a row, of course, I got lucky to roll 3 dice, and unlucky that none of them were 5s.
Right, sure. Yeah.
So it goes. So and there were a lot of dice rolls that were. Now I think the move that I probably is up at the top. That melee started going my way. I killed. My Storm Guardians are better than Gaunts in melee, and so I had the point to bring the one guy back, and I killed a Gaunt. He wasn't able to push through. I probably could have fallen back onto his 3-point objective.
Okay.
Either that, or I probably could have fired and faded, as we discussed earlier,
Yes.
to get a guy all the way onto his 3-point objective, which was guarded by 1 Gaunt. And, if I kill 1 Gaunt, or even if I force him to shake, right, and he doesn't have the command point or whatever, that would have been dispositive. But I didn't think of that, and although he kept sending more Gaunts onto my 3-point objective, and I kept just killing enough. He never did. I don't think he ever did actually get it. But at the same time, I was never able to hold. I think there was actually 1 turn where he did not hold an objective, incredibly.
Okay.
So because because he spread out that turn to get the 4 corners. And I think that was the 3rd turn. And then I leapt out with a guy taking an objective, stunned his guy who was going to be the weight of numbers on the 3-point objective. And so that just every turn there was something like that. So it was going back and forth. And you watch the game, there's huge amount of cheering. And there's 10 of them, but whatever.
That counts.
Yeah, we were excited, and it was like, he made that. I don't remember what the circumstance of the second 6-up save was, but I think it was big. I think it was he was sending a guy in, and I'd gotten an Overwatch shot with a pistol, and if he didn't get that guy in, he was not going to hold the objective, and he made the 6-up save. So
Suitably epic then. Yeah.
It was suitably epic. It was a great game. It was definitely the best game of the match. Yeah, I mean he was dominating the table, but he was not dominating the score, and I was able to kind of keep pace with it. And if I'd if the dice had turned dramatically in my favor, or if I had kind of thought of a few moves, I mean I think it was probably winnable for me, but I did not.
The final score, do you know?
9-7.
9-7. Okay. Do you have a takeaway from that at all? Like, because as you said, if you had maybe, well, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously you are playing the objectives. I'm not accusing you of not playing the objectives, but maybe a touch more situational awareness, and as you said, you'd have fallen back, gotten onto that 3-point objective, won the game.
Yeah,
that would have been.
Well, I mean, another thing, and this was actually a problem I had throughout the tournament. I never remembered to fire combat.
Okay, all right.
Silly. In most of the games, I don't think it was a big deal, but it probably was a big deal. I mean, it probably was relevant in the game. Okay. But no, I mean, I'll tell you, at the end of that game, I mean, it was an awesome game. Like, I did not care that I did not win that game. Like, Miguel played very well, right? Like, I mean, the thing is, when you've got two guys and they're playing well and they've got, good lists that they're using right, like, there's always going to be a million what ifs, right? Like, there's just we're both making mistakes all the time, but they're not like, I mean, you'd think shooting a pistol in combat is kind of a personal mistake, or remembering to make a veteran move. We're making a lot of good moves too, right? Yeah. We're making a lot of good moves too. And it's the 6th game of the tournament. You know what I mean? Like, you're tired, you're rushed, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I felt really good about the game. I mean, it was super fun. Okay. It was, I was just excited to be there. Now, he got the arena box. I didn't. I got a box of Primaris Reavers, which I.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know if I need 5 more Reavers, but I'm gonna find a way to use them.
Dead models. They could be objective markers, maybe.
They could be objective. That's right. That's a good thing. Why didn't I think of that? There you go. So that was those were the 6 games. Outstanding, and I think obviously I think Asuryani has the tools. He has the tools to win. I'm not going to tell you it's a top tier army, because I don't think if Joe Average goes out and brings Asuryani necessarily going to have great success. You gotta move those guys right. I mean, Eldar are like that in the big game too. Yes. I mean, Ynnari have this amazing win percentage, but there's always kind of a smallish number of people playing them, because a beginner is not going to do well with that list. And so I think Asuryani, they've been true to that. And I think, some people will complain, there's no Banshees, there's no Scorpions. Of course, there's no elites for anybody, right? No. But I don't know that they would add a lot. And I don't know that it's, for me, fluff-wise or whatever, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if you think about, in our current world, or if you're in Hollywood, a kill team is this super elite, like highly trained, but that's not what a real, I mean, I'm a soldier in real life. In World War II, there were 1 million kill teams, and they were all just regular guys thrown together, right? Like, you guys have to go do this thing, right? They didn't get 6 months of extra training to be the best of the best, and they were guys going out there doing the job. Eldari kill team is, right? They're a group of Guardians and Dire Avengers thrown together, doing the best thing they can. So,
okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not going to challenge your views on Eldar lore. That's for sure. Don't worry.
Right. No, man, I can talk.
I've got to be honest. So moving on quickly. Obviously, just to sum up there, you had a good time. You want to play more tournaments. Are you going to be playing more Eldar, or are you going to switch it up?
I'll probably play Asuryani. I'll continue to play Asuryani here, I think. I've been playing Death Watch for fun. Death Watch, not Death Guard. I have not yet figured out a way to make them win. I think having a 5 or 6 model roster is, and I'm playing Arena right now. Just not that I think that's what everybody has to play, but I just it's new to me, so I want to learn it.
Yeah.
And I cannot get Deathwatch to perform well in arena.
That's interesting because, of course, everybody, one of the hobby killer lists is 4 frag cannons.
Right,
Of course,
terrible list.
yeah, can't do anything with that.
Well, I mean, it's like, if you put those 4 frag cannons against my 12 guys, at the end of the first turn, I mean, you might kill 3, you'll probably kill 2, and I'll kill 2 of you, and that doesn't look good. And I'm going to have a lot of points, right? So,
Yeah. Well, there
I mean,
you
you
go,
just
everybody.
can't.
That's how you beat Deathwatch with Asuryani. Just kill him. There you go, shoot him.
Hello again, everybody. It's the end. Now, you might remember over an hour ago, I told you I wasn't going to be doing an outro, and I have nothing to say here, but I just wanted to do an outro because I like to be contrary and a bit of a dick. So I've done that, just to kind of contradict myself at the beginning and to defy your expectations. Consider yourself defied.